All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for Chevron Federal Credit Union's 2026 annual meeting. My name is Darren Rabineau, Vice President of Learning and Development, and I'll be your moderator today. Now, many of you have joined the meeting online, and we have quite a few that are here in person for our first annual meeting in Houston, Texas. Now, whether you're online or in the room, we are very thankful to have you here. For those attending remotely, you are already in a listen-only mode. And for those in the room, I'll ask that you please silence your phones, watches, and any other devices for the duration of the meeting. Now, during the registration process, you were invited to ask a question. We'll answer many of those questions towards the end of this meeting, and you'll also be able to ask questions today, and we'll field as many of them as time will allow. Remote attendees may submit questions using the Q&A feature within Zoom. Just look for the button that says Q&A on it to submit them. The in-person attendees, you'll use the Q&A forms that you see out that we've handed out earlier. Simply hand one of those to any of our greeters and they will bring them up to me. This meeting is being recorded and we'll post a link to the recording on the Credit Union website by the weekend. Now we have reached a quorum, so to kick us off, I have the privilege of introducing Alan Wong, Board Chair for Chevron Federal Credit Union. Alan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Darren. Thank you. Thank you, Darren, and hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2026 annual member meeting. My name is Alan Wong, and it's a privilege to serve as your board chair. I'm here on behalf of the board of directors who, like you, are also members of the credit union. Together, we represent your interests to help ensure that the credit union delivers the better rates, better fees, and better service that we all enjoy as members. In addition to Darren, who will facilitate today's meeting, I'm also joined here today by John Berlin, CEO of the credit union, and also Jim Killeran, who serves as the board or the chair of the Supervisory Committee and is joining us virtually today. We're especially pleased to welcome the members, board directors, and staff with us here in Houston today. I would say this is the first time that we're holding our annual member meeting here in Houston, and we're really excited to be here. Holding the meeting near Chevron's downtown headquarters gives us a great chance to connect with more of you in person. We also look forward to continuing the conversation at the member reception directly after the meeting, right downstairs. And we appreciate you being here, and we look forward to your questions during and after the meeting. In a moment, Darren will share on screen the agenda for today's meeting. Our first order of business will be the approval of the minutes from last year's member meeting. John will then provide an update on the status of the state of the credit union today. Then Jim Killeran will provide an assessment of the credit union's financial soundness and control environment. And then we will proceed with the election of directors and conclude with Q&A. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from the 2025 member meeting. The minutes were published on the credit union's website earlier this month and are visible on the screen right now. To provide more time for Q&A, I'll make a motion to waive the reading of last year's minutes. May I have a second? Second. All right. Thanks. We have a motion and a second to waive the reading of last year's minutes. We will now ask members to vote, beginning with those participating virtually. For those of you who are attending virtually, on your screen you can vote in the polling on the motion right now. Please vote now.
All right, now while the remote attendees are voting via Zoom, I'm going to poll the in-person audience. So all those in favor of waiving the reading of last year's minutes, please raise your hand and please keep it raised while I take a count. Very good, thank you. And all those who are opposed, please raise your hand and keep it raised. All right, and all those who choose to abstain from voting, please raise your hand. All right, the ayes have it and the motion is carried.
Okay, thanks everybody. I will now make a motion to approve the minutes for the 2025 annual meeting. May I have a second? Second. All right. Thank you. You may abstain from the vote if you did not attend last year's meeting. Again, for those of you who are participating virtually, you will now see a poll on your screen. Please vote now.
And once again, while the remote attendees are voting via Zoom, I will poll the in-person audience. So all in favor of approving last year's minutes, please raise your hand and keep it raised while I take a count. Very good, thank you. All opposed, please raise your hand. And all that choose to abstain, please raise your hand. Very good, thank you very much. The ayes have it and the motion is adopted.
Thank you, everyone. The minutes are now approved. Before I turn it over to John, I wanted to make a few remarks on behalf of the board. As a not-for-profit financial institution, our purpose is to serve our members. Instead of returning profits to outside investors, we return value every day in the better rates, better fees, and better service to our members. But with that in mind, the board has 3 focus areas, and they have not changed. The first is safety and soundness. The board and the senior management team have a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of our members and to protect the safety and soundness of the credit union and your deposits. With over $5 billion in assets, CFCU is one of the largest and strongest credit unions in the country. We take a conservative and disciplined approach to risk management, and as John will share later, our financial position is strong, both on an absolute basis and relative to our peers. The second is member value. We regularly compare ourselves to banks and other credit unions, and we work to offer strong deposit rates, competitive loan rates, and low fees. All of that translates into real value for our members and more money in your pockets. The third is member experience. We are focused on continuing to improve the member experience by making it easier, safer, and more convenient for our members to do business with the credit union. John will speak later about the many initiatives that we've completed and are working on to support that goal. Finally, I want to reinforce that your feedback matters to us. So thank you for taking the time to share your feedback through our surveys and through your broader experience as members. The board reviews member feedback regularly with the senior management team because we want to know what we are doing well and how we can improve. So with that, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate your continued trust. John, I'll turn it over to you.
Great. Thanks very much, Alan. And thanks very much to all of you for being here. I want to echo what Alan said. We're just thrilled to be in Houston for our first annual meeting in person in Houston. Love the attendance here, and I know a lot of people online. So thank you very much for coming here. And I'll just I'm going to start out by giving some highlights about what we're about and what we see as our value add, then a little bit of a recap of what the highlights from 2025, and then already this year, a few months into the year, what are some of the exciting things for this year. But I really like starting with our mission and vision because that's what I do like starting with mission and vision, but it would be better if it was on here. Okay, this is our mission. That's what everything we do is in service of our mission and vision. So we're all about, a couple of things in our mission is that we're about, and I'll emphasize this word, proudly serve. We proudly serve Chevron, Bechtel, and a select group of employer groups and their communities, their members. And what do? I love the start of this next part, that we're fueled by our passion for our members' success. That is everything. And then we help guide our members through their financial decisions throughout every stage of their lives. So that is our rock, our North Star. And then our vision is pretty simple too. We're going to be the premier and most trusted financial partner among those people we serve. We don't aspire to serve everyone, but we want to really be the best and most trusted for the communities that we serve. So how do we do that? How do we add our value? So we see our value in really 4 key components. And all of them are really important, It starts with a really personal approach and getting to know you. We really enjoy working closely with our members. We want to understand how members think, what motivates them, what's going to satisfy them, and we want our members to feel valued and appreciated with every single interaction that we have with them. Convenience is also really important. I'll spend a minute talking about a few different aspects of our convenience, but we want to make it, simply we want to make it really easy to do business and frictionless. And we want you to be able to do business and do your banking the way you want to. Alan's already talked about value, and we'll have a couple of examples later about that, but we want to give back to our member owners every single day in the form of great rates and low fees. And then finally, as part of, this is also echoed in our mission, is we want to guide members to make good financial decisions all the time. So it's really those four things that we want to add value every day. And if we do those right, we achieve our mission, our collective mission and vision. So I'm going to go into a couple aspects of convenience because convenience is so important. One thing is just being where our members are. So we've got 20 branches of our own across the United States. They're where our sponsors are. So we've got a couple within a stone's throw of where we are here in downtown Houston. We're at every major Chevron location in the U.S. We're at several Bechtel locations in the U.S. Very exciting, particularly in some of the project sites where there are big construction projects. There's also, if you don't live near one of our 20 branches, we have a network of 5,600 and counting shared credit union branches where you can do most transactions. And we also have 85,000 ATMs surcharge free. Obviously, we only have a small number of them ourselves, but through the network, you can participate in that. And I will add that that's a lot more than any big bank can offer. It says 85,000. Of course, convenience doesn't mean that you have to come in person to see us. We love seeing members in person, but there's a lot of members who want to do it self-serve or aren't near a branch, and we've got all the solutions for that. So digital banking is, we continue to invest heavily in digital banking with the ultimate goal of having members be able to do virtually anything in digital banking. And then I'm really excited about video banking. We've had this for a couple of years now rolled out. And this is something where anywhere in the world, like the member featured in this story here on this slide, anywhere in the world, you can make an appointment and on short notice and have a face-to-face experience and a branch-like experience. So lots of different ways to do business, and we want all of them to be convenient. And then, of course, our sponsors. So just a few pictures here on, we're in our community is our sponsors and our employers, and we're there. We aim to be there. We're literally there every day in a lot of places with our branches, and we want to be serving those communities. I'll say Chevron Federal Credit Union, we're proud to be in existence for 90 years and counting. In 1935, when the credit union was founded, credit unions just grew up around an employer, kind of like Chevron Federal Credit Union or serving Bechtel with the Legacy Spectrum Credit Union. A lot of credit unions have, for various reasons, have different models now. They're community credit unions. We have evolved a lot, but we haven't changed our core purpose, which is to align and serve our core sponsors. So we are your credit union. Let me talk about just a few highlights for 2025. 2025 was a very good year. Always like to start with the member experience. Alan talked about how we look at the surveys very, very carefully. This is a snapshot of our surveys from 2025. If you look at excellent and very good on several surveys, we were close to 100%. We had our best year ever in 4 of the big 5 surveys that we track. Here we're showing excellent, very good. Internally, we really focus on excellent because we don't want just very good, even though it's good. We want excellent, and in several of those surveys, we achieve over 90%. Not just about the numbers, though. We read every single word of what our members submit in the surveys or through feedback in other places. We learn from it. It's obviously we look for ways to improve, and there's constructive suggestions, which we really appreciate. I'm sure many of you have taken surveys over the years, and we appreciate that. Really did love this quote from Radu, a member in the San Ramon area in California. And it's become a little bit of a North Star for us. So I'll just read a couple of things where he said, you feel like a VIP every time you step in, and they literally roll out the red carpet and walk with you afterwards to open the door. And so we really aspire to do that with every interaction. Now, of course, we don't achieve that 100% of the time, but that really motivates us, and that's our North Star. That's what we want every member experience to be like. Just a word about value. So Alan talked about value. Here's an example with our money market rate, currently at 3.2%, which is close to the top of the market and far higher than what the national average is. We were very happy with the interest in our CD special in March, which is at 4%, and about 400 million in CDs that members sign up for. Probably a number of you at that rate. So really appreciated that. From a 2025 perspective in our growth and our balance sheet growth, we grew deposits 5.5%, so a very solid year, which amounted to 230 million in our growth. We're now considerably over 5 billion in growth, and as Alan mentioned, that was one of the top 2%. We're considered one of the leading credit unions in the United States. Measure of safety and security, another thing that Alan mentioned about safety and soundness. One of the ways we measure that is our capital ratio, our measure of reserves. We ended the year over 12%, and that's well above what our regulator, the NCUA, considers to be well capitalized at 7%. Just a couple of final thoughts about 2025. We continue revitalizing and expanding our branch network. You can see here on this slide the Richmond branch in California. We've been on a journey for the past several years, and we did this with Richmond last year. A very personal and welcoming space to facilitate the kind of really warm and personal conversations that we want to have with members on the left side. On the right side, you see the Port Arthur. This one looks a little differently because it's at a big construction site at a Bechtel location in Port Arthur. So our branches are tailored to the needs of what the particular sites offer. But that one launched earlier this year, and we're very excited because it's a very large facility in Bechtel. One last thing about 2025, and I'll just say a few things about what we're up to this year. So fraud is obviously the fraud risks in the industry and across the world just keep rising and rising. So we continue to invest in fraud mitigation capabilities. One of the things that was really pleased to do last year was something that's pretty state of the art for financial institutions, which was biometric authentication for some high risk transactions, like if you're going to do a wire in our digital banking application. You take a selfie each time you do it, which just takes a couple seconds, and that's matched up with what you put in initially with a government issued ID. So no one thing is perfect. We look for lots of layers of defense, but this one was a very nice substantive enhancement to our security capabilities. So I'll just conclude with a few words about what we're up to for 2026, a few months into the year already. Digital banking, of course, is something we continue to invest heavily in. A few things I'll just mention here that are coming soon. One is the ability to digitally issue you your debit card. So the plastic's not going away. You'll still have that. But if you have the misfortune of having a stolen card or lose your card, you're going to get it virtually instantly to be able to use in your digital wallet. The second thing, CDs, renewing your CDs. Wouldn't it be really nice to have a very seamless process, an easy process to renew your CDs? So for all of you who participated in our CD special, that's coming soon, that we're going to be launching that capability. And then also on the protection theme too, with the fraud protection theme, another technique to make sure that it's really you and it's really your device, your phone that you've used before is acting on your behalf. Not done with talking about fraud. You can kind of see a theme. We're very focused on protecting your accounts, protecting the credit union. We are migrating this year to a new fraud management system that's considered in the industry a state-of-the-art fraud mitigation system. It will help us be even quicker to alert and be able to follow up on suspicious activity to protect your accounts. And then finally, it seems hard these days to have a business conversation without talking a little bit about AI. So I'm going to talk for a second about AI. And the credit union is very focused on leveraging AI to complement, not to change the direction of what we do, but to complement and support our very personal experience. So we are focused in the 4 ways listed here, both general workforce productivity, driving the member experience, helping each department run more efficiently and effectively, and also risk management perspective. So think about fraud, credit risk management, compliance management. A lot of things already in flight that are exciting. We are training AI bots to have staff who interact with members be able to access knowledge at their fingertips much quicker. We're working train AI bots to evaluate all of the member calls that we do. So we will continue to get better and better and learn from that and continue the coaching. So anyway, more to come with that, but those are some of the highlights for 2026. So very excited about what we're doing and on all the different ways to enhance the member experience, protect the safety and soundness of the credit union, and ultimately continue delivering more and more value to members. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jim Killoran, who is the chair of the Supervisory Committee, to make some remarks on behalf of the Supervisory Committee.
Thanks, John. My name is Jim Killoran, and I'm the chair of the Supervisory Committee. I've been a member of the Chevron Federal Credit Union for almost 4 decades and have served on the Supervisory Committee for the past 14 years. The Supervisory Committee engages independent firms to perform the annual financial statement audit and other necessary audits. The 2025 financial statement audit resulted in an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that financial statement auditors provide. The Supervisory Committee meets regularly with internal audit and our external auditors to monitor the state of internal controls at the credit union and to ensure your assets are safeguarded. Based on the results of internal audits and external reviews for the year 2025, we conclude that the Chevron Federal Credit Union has adequate internal controls and is financially sound. Back to you, Alan.
Okay, thank you, Jim. The final item of business before we move to Q&A is the election of directors. There are 4 vacancies to fill this year, and a special nominating committee has nominated the following individuals: Glenda Valero de Solano, Vic Brandeboom, Alan Wong, and Marla Wright. No nominations were received by petition, and since the number of nominees equals the number of open positions, no vote is required. The nominees are elected by general consent. That is the last formal order of business. We'll now move to members' questions, and Darren will moderate the Q&A. We'll begin with a few questions submitted in advance, and then we'll prioritize the live questions from the audience, both here in the room and those joining us virtually. Some members submitted questions about their own personal situations, and we've tried to address those questions directly before this meeting, and we'll continue to do so after the meeting. For today, we'll focus on questions that are of broader interest to the membership. Darren, please get us started with the first question.
Very good. Thank you, Alan. We're going to start with a few questions about the value of being a member. So what are my benefits as a member?
Thanks. That's a great question. So I would say that there are many benefits that matter the most to the members. The first is obviously the competitive rates that we keep talking about and the low fees as well as the convenience of that we always strive to improve on of working and doing business with the credit union. But I would say that the one thing that stands out the most to me is that we really take the time to understand our members, understand what matters to you, what your financial situations are. And I would say that, as an aside, all the members of the board of directors are either current active employees or former employees of our two core sponsors, being Chevron and Bechtel. So we have a really good understanding of what it's like to be in your shoes and the challenges that you probably face every day. And at the end of the day, I would say that the credit union exists to serve you as the owners.
And we had several members who asked about interest rates for savings, CDs, and home loans. What is our approach to setting rates for those products?
Okay. So as we had talked about, Alan and I both talked about before, our goal and our practice to set them very, very competitively. From a deposit perspective, we are looking to be always well above other peer credit unions, other peer banks, at or near the internet banks, which don't provide, of course, the same level of personal service, but we want to be really close to them. On the credit side, so for example, for mortgage rates, we benchmark ourselves all the time with leading mortgage providers, both nationally and key local ones. And our goal there is to be the same, very highly competitive and at or near the top of the market. And we look at this all the time and are continually adjusting, scanning the market and adjusting to make sure that we're very competitive.
Are members shareholders, and does the credit union share its dividends with members?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, just one of the key differences between a credit union and a traditional bank is that a credit union is owned by its members. And our philosophy has always been to, instead of trying to increase profits, only to give it back through a special dividend, which is something that cooperative organizations like credit unions can do. Our philosophy has always been to give members value back every day in the competitive rates that we offer, both on the deposit side and loan side, and the low fees that we all enjoy. So that's how we've always thought about it.
Yeah, I like what you said. Give back every day is, I think, the spirit of that.
Yeah,
not hold it back, not hold it for a rainy day, but to give it back every day.
That's right. I think that's our mantra.
Segueing into technology, what is the credit union doing to enhance member security via online banking?
Yeah, I think of that in probably three different buckets. I think there's from a technical perspective, there's all the things that you would expect us to do between encryption and keeping all the security protocols up to date and regular updates and patching. I mean, that's sort of one huge part of it. Second thing is harken back to some of the things I was talking about before with the fraud mitigation. We have a whole team that's dedicated to looking for these signals, all the technology things I mentioned, and alerting them, and then they're following up, throughout every day, throughout every minute, following up on things that may be suspicious and following up directly with members and just immediately halting access to accounts. And then the third thing is really members themselves who play a big role in this. So we try to educate members. You probably see a lot of things that we do, a lot of our communications about watching out for various scams or fraudulent activity. So we want you to be aware of that. The other thing is just also some of the capabilities that you can take advantage of. For example, in digital banking, you can set alerts, customized based on your preferences. So, whether if a transaction is above a certain amount, you get alerted, and that is very helpful when members do that, because that alerts us quickly and we can take action. So I would say those are three big classes of things that really work in concert to provide high level of protection.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about access to our services. And I'm going to combine a couple of questions that we've received from our members. And it has to do with shared branching. So, for example, we've got 2 CFCU offices here in Houston that are not accessible to a number of our members. And between that person and others, they've asked about if they happen to be in an area where there is no longer a shared branch by another credit union, or asking about co-ops, how can they conduct their banking with the credit union? And can you suggest the co-ops that we would belong to?
You want to take that?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I think as a general principle, it goes back to a couple of things that I was talking about when we were talking about convenience. So part of it is, a lot of people are within our branches or shared branches, not everyone. And that's where we talk about digital banking is one thing that, again, we want people to be able to do almost everything in digital banking. And that's where video banking comes in, because video banking is essentially a branch-like experience aside from, the obvious things of not being able to withdraw cash or deposit cash. And a few things like that, but those are really the big things we would do from a perspective of which shared branch in any different locale is probably a specific question that we could address with anyone who's interested. About specifics, we could absolutely work with anyone about their geography, what's best. But I'd say the digital bank and video banking really apply universally for everyone anywhere, regardless of location.
Now, another member has asked, what advantage can CFCU offer to them by transferring their mortgage to the credit union here?
You want to take that one? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So probably a few different things. One, if you transfer, you're considering transferring your mortgage to us. I'm fairly confident that we can do better on your rate, assuming you didn't get your mortgage in 2021 when rates were at the all-time low. So I want to issue a little bit of a caveat, but if you did it in the past couple of years, when rates were a little bit higher, I'd say we've got there's a very good chance of the people you're looking at that we will be very competitive. And then I would go back to some of the four big things I mentioned before. One is value, which I talked about. We'll probably have very low rate. We typically have lower fees than just about any other mortgage lender that I've seen. But it also goes back to some of those other things: the personal approach, the convenience, the guidance. We will just work with you. We'll enjoy working with you. We will spend as much time as you need with us. We see that as a really good thing. We're not trying to send you off to do it yourself unless that's what we want. So we'll guide you through every step of the way. And as our members tell us in this, in the surveys that come in every day, almost every member that we talk to really enjoys the mortgage experience and really appreciates that personal consultation and that personal touch. So whoever asked that and any others considering, we would love to have the chance to serve you. And
yeah, I have nothing to add.
All right. Alan seconds that.
Yeah.
All right, on to a couple of questions about the credit union overall. What is the overall financial health of the credit union today, and what is the forecast for the next several years?
I can start on that one, but as John mentioned earlier in his presentation, our financial strength is quite strong. I'll point to the 12% capital ratio, which ranks very favorably amongst our industry peers. In addition to that, our loans are performing well, and our credit losses are well below the industry averages, at least partially due to the strength of our membership. But regarding the forecast, maybe John, do you want to elaborate more on that?
Sure. Yeah, no, we're very optimistic about the future, and we see it being very bright. I think on a few dimensions. One, from a growth perspective, we talked about the growth we experienced last year. We expect that to continue at least that rate for the foreseeable future. So from a balance sheet health perspective, that's good. Alan had mentioned the credit portfolio performance, that we from a forecast perspective, we expect that to continue to perform well. And then from a net interest margin perspective, had in some of the years when the rates rose quickly, that it compressed our margin, but that is changing and continuing to expand. So I think from a forward-looking perspective, that's the trajectory is good there.
So while members are excited to hear about the overall financial health of the credit union, one did ask, why did the credit union have a loss in 2025?
John, do you want to start with that
Sure,
one.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So it was an accounting loss. What happened is, and what we do, if you look in our annual report, we have our core earnings, which were positive, core earnings from operations, and then we have in 2025 a large loss from the market value of our derivatives portfolio. So we use interest rate derivatives, so interest rate caps, interest rate swaps to hedge our portfolio because our balance sheet and income statement is sensitive to interest rates. So as rates go down, which is generally a very good thing for the credit union. Otherwise, the market value of our hedges also goes down. I will say, if you look back at some of our financial statements from some prior years, we had some massive gains too. So overall, in the past 5-6 years, as rates have risen from what were near zero, the market value of our hedges has been very, very large cumulatively. But last year it was lower. So and just a little bit more context on that, we hold our hedges to maturity, and they fluctuate. They can fluctuate wildly based on the ups and downs of interest rates. But we hold them to maturity, and at maturity, the value is zero. So they always, whether they go up or down, they end up the market value goes to zero.
Yeah, I would add to that too, that we look at profitability over the long run as well. And as John mentioned, that's why we have a hedging program to begin with. And the value of those hedges benefited us tremendously over the past few years as interest rates increased to, I think it was a historic increase in interest rates. So that's how I would view it. And sometimes when interest rates revert back to the mean or come back down, we've seen some of the unwinding of those the increases in the market value of those hedges.
So what is the reason that we still have separate brands for Chevron Federal Credit Union and Spectrum Credit Union?
Yeah, that's a great question. We have two different brands to communicate more effectively with different employer groups. Regarding the Chevron brand, that reflects the long-standing partnership that we've had with Chevron Corporation since our inception in 1935. And it's very important for our current members and future members who are connected with Chevron. The Spectrum brand exists to help us connect with a broader base of employer groups. I would say that the products and services are exactly the same. The difference is how we communicate with the different employer groups in a way that best fits them and to meet members where they are. Yeah.
And what looks to be the final question, how does the fact that the Chevron corporate headquarters are now in Houston impact the credit union's corporate offices in the Bay Area?
Yeah, that's a good question. So just to a little bit of background for since the start of the pandemic, so for about the past 6 years, credit union has operated in a very highly flexible geographic model. So we hire people nationally, even people who are in the Bay Area have the flexibility to work remotely most of the time. So from that perspective, geography of our workforce is a much different question and is not that important. Doesn't have the same level of importance as it would in a company where people are on site every day. That said, I mean, Houston is kind of the center of activity for the credit union. We've always had the member-facing staff needed to serve everyone here. Our annual meeting is here. You probably noticed that
Right.
As a sign of the importance of Houston. So we're all in Houston, and despite the fact that we have a highly remote work arrangement, we definitely want to sort of grow the population of staff here over time and shift that balance. We're still kind of evaluating different ways about what that would look like, but I think the things we know are that we'll stay true to our the remote work model, which we see as a very big competitive advantage for sourcing talent and retaining talent. And Houston will be at the center of our strategy.
Yeah, I would add to that from the board's perspective, our focus is on servicing members wherever they are, whether they are in Houston, California, or the many other locations across the country where our members reside. So that's been our focus, and that will continue to be our focus going forward.
Well, this concludes our annual meeting. I'm going to turn it back to our board chair for final thoughts.
Okay. Thank you, Darren. Well, before we wrap up, I just wanted to thank all of you for joining us here today. For those of you who are here in person, we look forward to continuing the conversation at the reception right downstairs afterward. But I just wanted to say for everybody, we appreciate your continued trust. And most of all, thank you for being a member of the credit union. All right. Thank you. That concludes the meeting today.